Yeah, hi. This is Mani, PicOS Solution Engineer. So this video, we are going to see secured wired access for macOS guest laptop endpoint. It involves three major steps. First, we will configure mapped wired access policy in ISE. Second, we will configure necessary VLAN and ACL for these will be used as dynamic authorization policy that's pushed from ISE. We will test it and show how to verify. So before I jump in, I want to show you the topology. So the guest laptop is connected to port number 24, and it does not have 802.1x applicant. So it will end up getting authenticated using MAC address bypass. So let us get started. So the first part in configuring mapped wired access policy is create authorization profile to dynamically assign VLAN and then dynamically push ACL to the switch. So let us see how to do that. So I'm going to the ISE. First, let us define an authorization policy. So we will be using an authorization policy called MAC PICA8 map VLAN profile. So this is the dynamic VLAN. We will push it for the guest laptops. So I put a name, access accept, and then in here, you need to select the VLAN. So VLAN 10 is chosen. And then you will click submit. So the second part we will define is dynamic ACL. Mainly you need to provide ACL name, and actual ACL will be defined in the PicOS switch. So this is called the PICA8 map ACL. Again, access accept with the logo. This is the name of the ACL. Again, I click submit. So these are the two authorization policies that we have created. Next, we need to create an access policy that will tie these two together. So let me show you how to do that. So I'm going here to the policy sets. So we created a new policy called general access, and we chose wired map, default network access. So you go in there and authentication, we set it to internal endpoints because it's going to be an endpoint identification or endpoint authentication versus user authentication. So internal endpoints, these conditions you set on auth failed reject, user not found reject, and process drop. So the other thing we are going to do is go to authorization policy. So in this case, I decided not to use the endpoint identity group. So we have one endpoint identity group for phones, one endpoint identity group for access points. So this guest access, mainly we are going to let them access internet, not allow anything else on the corporate network. So I'm not creating any identity group for the for this guest laptop endpoint. So I'm using default thing that came under that policy, and I have added profiles, map ACL profile and map VLAN profile, and then I'll click submit. So that's how we create the ISE policy. So the VLAN number 10 is going to be dynamically pushed from the ISE. However, we need to create VLAN. Association of VLAN 10 to port 24 will happen after ISE pushes the policy, but we have to create VLAN, and we also need to create ACL for the guest access. So let me show you how. So here we are. Let us look at how VLAN is created. So I'm on the switch. If you see already a VLAN 10 is created. Again, this is another command to see VLAN 10. So we just created it. Port 23 will not have any VLAN association. That will be dynamically pushed from ISE. So second, we are going to define a policy like what this guest users can access and what guest user cannot access. So we created a ACL, which we put the name in ISE. So what we are letting guests do is we block the entire corporate network. We don't allow them to be on that network, but we let them go out through the gateway. We allow them access to the DHCP server so they can get an IP. So this is the ACL, and you have seen the authorization policy. So that's what we did. And in the port, already there is 802.1x authentication and MAP authentication. So in this case, 802.1x is not going to work because no supplicant. So it's going to default to MAP. So let us test wired access. So what I'm going to do, just to simulate this, I have disabled the interface, so I'm going to enable it right now. So I have enabled it right now. So we are going to look at the interface. So you can see here it is unauthorized. Moment ISE kicks in, you will see, we have assigned VLAN 10 and we have assigned this dynamic ACL. So that's the verification part on PicOS. There are a bunch of other things you can do. So if you do look at the VLAN association, now you will see port VLAN 10 is associated with port 24. Previously it was not, so it's dynamically assigned. So that's one thing you can check. Other thing you can check is the ACL itself. So I'm running this command show.onex dynamic filter MacOS policy 1, like I'm giving that. So it shows you all the rules, what the action is, and what are the packet counters. So when we discard for this network, you can see the packet counters are 630 packets. All the traffic that's going to internet, this is the packet counter, and it shows this ACL is applied to port 24. So this is another troubleshooting or verification command you can run to check. So we verified the access. Now let us look at it in ISE. So I'm going to go to ISE, Operation Live Logs. And so this Mac ends in 5E, and you can see it already pushed MAB ACL profile and VLAN profile. Those two we defined on that router. So I can click on the detail to look at everything about authentication. All the result, like what is pushed, is in here. It pushed VLAN tag 10, and it also pushed the filter ID. So that's how you verify it on the ISE.